It's early, we're heading to the gym. I got a good 25-minute drive before I get there, so I figured I'd make a little video about my experience through coming up in the starting strength gyms community and coaching the starting strength method, and the ups and downs of all that stuff. It was a pretty hectic period of my life that ultimately led to where I'm at now, where I have my own gym. But I think there's a lot of people out there who have a warm and fuzzy feeling about all this stuff. And after a little while, you kind of find out that it's not exactly what you thought. So we'll just kick it off by saying, when I first found starting strength, I was looking up the method because my knees were hurting. It was 2020. I'd never been a personal trainer. I'd never done anything like that before. Marine Corps veteran. And, I had self-image issues. I wanted to get bigger. I wanted to get stronger. And in the process of that, I kind of messed myself up a little bit with some patellar tendonitis. So I Googled it and I found that Art of Manliness episode where Rip was teaching Brett how to squat, low bar squat. And so I kind of took that and I ran with it, and I applied that whole method. In 3 months, I got stronger than I had ever been. No coaching, no nothing like that. I just took what I saw in the video and I applied it to myself, and it worked fantastic. And it was about that time that COVID kicked off, and I had lost my job in the oil field. And so I was really starting to kind of think about what I actually wanted to do with my life. And that method worked so well for me. It made such a tremendous impact on my life that I decided I was going to try to make that work. I wanted to learn how to do that. I wanted to teach people how to do that. And so that kind of started me down that road. So I bought a bunch of gym equipment. I put it in my garage, and I started trying to find people to train to teach them how to do that. And not even a month later, I saw an advertisement for the first Oklahoma starting strength gym was going to be opening in Westmore. So I immediately emailed the guy that was going to be opening that gym. Great guy, still like that dude, still talk to him all the time. But I emailed him, I said, hey, this is who I am. I've been doing this method for X amount of time now. I want to learn how to teach it. I want to work at your gym. And he shot me back a message within a day or two, and we linked up and started going down that path. His name is Colby. So after a couple weeks, I went down there to that where the gym was being built at. I helped build that gym out with Chase and Phoebe. And within a couple weeks, I was sent to my first seminar, and I learned the method there. I went through the coaching. I did all that stuff, met Rip, all those people. Came back and continued to learn and apply the method. And in my time there, I never got paid. I spent 2 years at that gym. I got paid a little bit of money, maybe $10 per class. And I got paid for 3 classes a week. So it really didn't even offset my gas expense per month to go down there. I was funding myself. I cashed out my 401k, I cashed out my Roth IRA. I took all that money and just applied it to nothing but coaching. I was going to spend all my time coaching. I did the prep course. It took me a long time. I did the prep course. I paid for that out of pocket. I learned a lot, and I had some really valuable mentors and some good experience coaching. And for the first 6 months of working there, it was pretty great. I was getting along with everybody. We were doing good. And then, anywhere in this industry, man, if you're not familiar with this industry, the coaching thing is mostly egos. It's a whole lot of egos. People are very insecure about the way that they do things, the way they teach things, and it shows, especially in that gym environment. If you say something that somebody doesn't necessarily agree with, they won't always explain to you a legitimate reason of why they disagree, but it kind of is just well, this is the way that we do it, so we're not going to, change that up. So after about 6 months, it took me to get like kind of an eye for coaching. I started kind of trying to do things the way that I thought I saw it and what made sense to correct it. And that started causing a whole bunch of problems. And those problems just kind of snowballed over time. And I think that this is a pretty common experience for a lot of people, because in my time there at that first Westmore gym, which was like 2 years, I saw at least like 7 other people trying to apprentice come and go. I was the only one that stuck around for that whole time. I was the first, I was the last. and that's kind of how that industry goes. It chews people up and it spits them out. They don't offer a real solid career path. They expect you to come in and learn things and do it for free, and then they'll start paying you eventually. But the reality is that you're never going to have a full-time, long-term job there unless you're like an owner. Because I even still talk to people that are, doing that now, or were doing it up until recently. And, that franchise just fires people because coaching is their most expensive expense. It's tough to get new members. It's tough to get members that pay what they want to charge. And as a result, with their criteria for where they open their gyms at, the coaching expense and all the other things, that is a costly thing. So they let those coaches go, and so the long-term viability of a job there is not good. I would say for most people, if you're looking at doing that, go there for like 6 months to a year, learn the model from somebody that's been teaching it for a long time, learn some pretty general ways to like correct issues, and then dip out, leave. You will be better off with a NASM at like a Lifetime Fitness or something like that than you would be to like pursue a career with that facility or that franchise. But anyway, after like 2 years of doing that apprenticeship at that first gym, we finally opened up our other location in Oklahoma City, the Quail Springs location. Opened that gym up, and I ran it for a while until eventually they cut my hours. So like I'd been coaching for practically free for 2 years. There was a period where if I wanted to make money, I had to drive from Edmond to Tulsa to coach out in Tulsa while some other guy was going off and cross training or whatever, getting ready for his SSC. So it made it really, really hard to make any money there. So by the time that Quail Springs location opened up, I went there, and I think within about 3 months they were unhappy with how many people were at the gym. I was running a full schedule by myself. I think we had like a 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. class time option. They wanted to open up a 5:30 a.m. class. I was like, there's no way I'm doing that 5:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day. So they were considering bringing in another coach, somebody that I'd been, beefing with for the last 2 years. I was really reluctant to reignite that situation. So I told him, I was like, hey, look, what's going to happen is that you bring this guy in, there's going to be a lot of people that we already have that are going to transition from those evening classes to that 5:30 morning class, and you're going to slash my hours in half. I was like, let's not do that. I can't do that. I've been working for free for so long, I'm unwilling to do that, and if you do that, I'm going to leave. And I told them that flat out. Obviously, that didn't matter to them. They did it anyways, and within a week, I lost like half of my clients to that early morning class that I absolutely did not want to do, because it was at 5:30 in the morning, and I live a half an hour away from the gym. But they did it, and so I quit. I said, sorry, here's my reasons. Here's why I'm quitting. It's been nonstop bullshit with this place forever. I finally started making some decent money, and you cut my hours in half. I just fucking bought a house for this. I'm out. So I quit, and within a couple months, they were really struggling. They called me back, had me come back to the gym, and I had already found like another good paying job. I had moved on. I was like, yeah, I'm done with this. It was a lot of BS. I had found another job they called me back. They said, look, we'll give you more money. We'll give you the hours that you want. You work alone. We'll get you some apprentices, and you'll start that thing off on your own. And I came back, and within like 3 or 4 months, the gym had filed bankruptcy. It was all a bunch of BS to get me back, and I was out of work. And it was pretty messed up because at the time, I'm thinking to myself, I had a good job. You brought me back here just to lay me off, essentially, to terminate my position. But they brought down some people. Nick Delegadio came down to talk about it. I guess he was like a representative at the time of the franchise. He came down to talk to all the coaches and whatever about what was going to be going on. They told me, hey, this is a short-term thing. We're just going to get a new owner and open the gym back up in a couple months. It'll be all right. I was like, okay, cool. So what do I do in the meantime? They told me, take your people somewhere else and train them somewhere else for this interim period, and then we'll bring you guys back and we'll be back in business in 4 months or something, is what they said. I said, okay. So I went and I found a place to train people immediately. There was no cessation in training whatsoever. We kept the bulk of the clients that we had by moving to that other place. They had promised us that there was going to be no interruptions in pay. There was going to be no difference like that. And it was kind of weird because I was thinking, well, the company that pays me currently is going bankrupt. So how are you going to have no disturbance in my pay when the company that has all my payment information on file is no longer going to be a thing, and you haven't even made an attempt to get my payment information? I inquired about that. They never answered that effectively. And then after 2 weeks, they didn't pay me. And I texted Nick. I said, hey, what the heck, man? I haven't been paid. They said, do you typically get paid? I was like, yeah, typically on this day I get paid. And there was nothing. So I immediately quit. I was like, man, I'm going my own way then. I'm not dealing with this. I can't work for free for forever. And this gym thing is not definitive. You don't even have a new owner lined up. It was always something. It was always something with this company. And so yeah, after I had moved there, I'd been coaching those people for 9 months at a different facility. And then I found out that they were looking to hire another coach to replace me. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird. Somewhere in between all this, I went down to Wichita Falls. I tested out. I passed the platform evaluation. They had scheduled me for the oral board. And somewhere in there, I found out they were looking to hire another coach. And I was like, hang on, I do all this for this company over the course of all this time. I put up with all this bullshit. I drain all my money. I'm commuting to work for free. And you're looking to replace me now? Why? I did everything that you asked and then some. I did everything perfectly fine. I had never gotten a legitimate complaint from anybody that I worked for in that entire process. But they were looking to replace me. And at that point in time, I kind of just decided, I'm done with this company. I'm done with this company in every single way. They have not treated me well at all at any point in my entire 3 years at that point of working for them. They treated me very badly. And so I walked away. And on the day of the oral board, they messaged me and they said, hey, I emailed the oral board group or whatever, and I said, you know what, I'm not going to do this. And my thought process is, I'm not going to do this because I don't want to be associated with you people. I don't want to be associated with an organization that does this to its own people. They lied to all the members at the time during the bankruptcy. They said that they were going to be reimbursed and all this stuff, that they were going to pay them for the disruption in training. And they didn't do any of that stuff. And it's just crazy. It's crazy that you can pump so much time, so much energy, be so committed to something because it works. It really does work. It works for practically everybody. And at the same time, they're just like, yeah, screw you. They throw back in your face. So now we got our own gym, we're doing our own thing, and you know, we're still running with like the model kind of. We're changing it up. We're not going to be we're not as dogmatic about certain stuff. But why dump something good just because the way that it's being handled is so bad? And then, but if you look at this stuff, they did Chase and Phoebe the same way. They've done several other gyms across the country the same way with their coaches. But if you look at like the trend over time, you know, we shouldn't really be surprised. If you have a basic understanding of like the history of starting strength, how they've always had problems with people. They had problems with Alan Thrall. They had problems with that Jordan Feinbaum guy, that Matt dude, you know, Chase and Phoebe, me, literally everybody that comes into contact with this organization, they end up having like some crazy issue with. And it's, I don't, like, why is that? Why do you have a problem with everybody? But they'll turn around and they'll spin it like, well, that person was an asshole, or that person was, you know, whatever. That person had some kind of problem. At some point, when you have this many conflicts with this many people, it's you. It's you. You are the problem. So if you're considering an apprenticeship with starting strength, this is where I would leave it at. If you are considering an apprenticeship with starting strength, you go there, you milk it for what it's worth for like 6 to 9 months. You're going to learn everything that you need to learn. You do the prep course. They'll probably pay for it if you convince them that you're going to stick there. And because they need coaches, they just don't want to pay them. But that's what I would say. Go there, learn how to coach effectively, take it, and leave. It would be the best financial return for you on your time and on your money than trying to go through the process like everybody else has gone through and get chewed up and spit out. That's what I would say.